Today guys, I'm going to show you how you can create a completely working shop, fully complete with a resource system that means that you need to have the required amount of resources to be able to purchase an item, and even including how to create this next item button that you can press to cycle through items of a similar type. Okay guys, so that shop system is actually pretty easy to recreate. It only uses 3 devices. The 3 devices that we're going to be using are a trigger, the brand new item spawner, and the billboard. First of all, we're going to start with the brand new item spawner device. I sort of went over this in yesterday's video. If you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend going and watching that. There were lots of little things that were added in this update, so go check that out to make sure that you didn't miss anything. In this item spawner, we have the option to set the wood cost of item, the stone cost of item, and the metal cost of item. This is where you're going to want to set the cost of the item for your shop. First of all, I'm just going to start with a really cheap item that only costs 10 wood. What I'm going to do is I'm going to group together a bunch of items that all cost 10 wood. That's because when we set the cost to 10 on the item spawner, all the items that can spawn within this device will now cost 10 wood. So we need to make sure that when we're grouping together items, that we do it based on the amount that they'll cost. A good standard group of items to group together is 2 minis, 1 big shield, 2 chug splashes, and 5 bandages. So to be able to load up the item spawner with the things that we want to be able to sell in our store, we need to open up our creative inventory and go across to the play setting at the top. From here, we're just going to drag the minis and the other items out of our inventory and onto the spawner. To get 2 chug splashes, I'm just going to press the drop button, and then I'm just going to make sure that I slide this bar across until it says 2. Finally, we're just going to drag the bandages into the item spawner. So guys, when you have all of that set up, you should have all of these items just cycling through one at a time. Next, we're going to set up all of the settings on the item spawner. So these are all the settings that I'm going to choose. I'm going to leave items respawn on. I'm going to leave random spawns off. I'm going to turn off the visibility during the game. I'm going to set the time before first spawn to instant. And I'm also going to do the same with the time between spawns. I'm going to leave the wood cost of item as 10 because this is the cheapest items in our store. I'm going to leave the bonus ammo for weapons on. I'm going to leave the run over pickup off. I'm going to set the item visibility to 2 times. This basically makes the preview of each of the items 2 times bigger than they are by default. I'm going to leave enabled on game start as enabled, and then I'm going to leave these 3 settings as no channel. And finally, I'm just going to change the last setting to channel 1. I'm going to set this to channel 1 because this is how we're going to set up the next part of our store, which is allowing the player to be able to cycle through the items in that price category. So once we have all of that set up, you should be good to go with a basic store. All that we need to do now is allow the player to cycle through these items so that they can choose exactly which item that they want to buy. To do this, I'm going to come over to the sign first of all. On the sign, I'm just going to write next item. I'm then going to change the size to large, the text justification to centered, the text font to Burbank. I'm going to turn off the border. I'm going to leave the text color as white, and I'm going to change the background color to clear. Once you're done, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. Next, I'm going to copy this sign and make another one directly below it. We're going to edit this, and we're going to write press in brackets. I'm going to change the text size to medium, and I'm going to change the text color to red. Once you're done, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. You should have next item written in white and then press written in red directly underneath it. Next, we're going to take this floating sign and actually turn it into a button that you can press, which controls our item spawner. To do this, we're going to use a trigger. I'm going to make a copy of this trigger and place it directly behind the sign. We're going to want to rotate it and place it directly behind the sign. I also went ahead and resized the trigger. In game, the trigger is going to be invisible, so all you're going to see is the text. So it's important to resize the trigger so that you can't swing over here and still trigger this button. For the trigger settings, I'm going to turn off the ability for this to be triggered by the player. I don't want the player to be able to walk into this button and actually activate it. What we want them to do is swing their pickaxe at it and actually activate it like they're clicking a button. To do this, we're going to turn on triggered by damage. We're going to leave the number of times that it can be triggered as infinite. We're going to leave the next setting as 1. There's going to be no delay and there's going to be no reset delay. I'm going to leave the trigger sound and the trigger VFX. I'm going to turn off the visibility in game, and because we've turned off the visibility in game, we need to make sure that this can take damage when it's invisible. This is a really important setting. If you don't change this to take damage, then our button won't work in game. We're going to leave all of the remaining settings the exact same, apart from the last setting, which is when triggered transmit on, which we're going to change to channel 1. And that should be everything that we needed to create this button. Okay guys, so the next thing that I recommend doing is just writing the cost of the item directly below the item. I think it's useful, and it also looks good just to put the price of the item into the level somewhere. You can expand this entire system and include as many different price points that you want, and also different resources. I recommend following this layout with the price down here, the item spawner sort of in the middle, and then this button off to the right somewhere. If we check this out in game, you can see that the next item press button is completely invisible, and it's just a bit of floating text in the sky. We can also see that this will cost 10 wood. Right now the item shop's telling me that I don't have enough resources to be able to buy this. That's because I have 0 wood in my inventory and I need 10 to be able to buy it. If we hit the next item press button, you can see that it cycles through to the next item in the item spawner, and it still says that each of these items costs 10 wood. Now that I have 500 wood in my inventory, I'm able to cycle through the different items in the item shop, and I can walk up to them. It shows me that this item will cost 10 wood, but it no longer says that I can't afford it. So I can press E and actually buy this, and it'll go straight into my inventory. So guys, that's how you create a basic item shop / store in Fortnite. You can expand this, like I said, for every single price point that you want. You can have this store going up in price. All you need to do is just copy and paste this along and create different sections for each of the different price points. If you want to create more than one price point, all you need to do is come into the item spawner device. All you need to do is whenever you add another price section to your shop, you just need to come in here and increase the channel by 1. You also need to go over to your button and increase the transmit channel to match. That's to make sure that this button only controls this item and it doesn't control all of the items in the entire item shop. That way you can cycle through an item over here without actually cycling another item over there. So guys, if you expand out the shop system, you get something that looks a little bit like this. I have 4 different windows here now. I have 4 different price points for my items. It's completely custom decorated as well. It kind of looks like a medieval market. But if you set it all up correctly, then when you hit the next item button for that window, it will only actually cycle that item. So as you can see, I can just cycle through the weapons for blue. I can also come across and cycle the different weapons for the golden section, and everything is just completely independent from one another. As you can see, they all have different prices as well. So this one is 20 wood. It tells me that I don't have enough to buy this grey revolver right now. If I come over here, you can see that the combat shotgun is worth 50 wood. I also don't have enough wood to be able to buy the combat shotgun right now. If I try and take it, it won't let me. No matter how many times I press E, it won't let me pick this item up. Also going across to the golden section, you can see that these weapons are worth 100 wood, and again, it won't let me pick these up. So guys, now that I've got 500 wood in my inventory, I'm able to walk up to any of these. As you can see, the small section is only worth 10 wood, so I'm able to actually buy these right now. When I click buy, it drops them straight into my inventory just like before. Super useful. As you can see, I can go along and I can just select whatever I want. So I might come along and actually take this infantry rifle for 20 wood. So as you can see, as soon as I bought it, it took 20 wood from my account. The other 2 added up to 20, so now I'm on 460 wood left. This one is worth 50 wood, so afterwards I should have 410 wood. So as you can see, it takes the amount of resources that it costs each time from my inventory and puts the gun into my quick bar. And finally, I can choose this minigun for 100 wood, putting me down to 310 wood. And as you can see, it takes the resources from my account and puts the golden minigun into my quick bar. So as you can see guys, it's a really polished system. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing in different game modes. There's loads of different ideas that I have for this. I'm sure there's loads of different ideas that you guys have got for this. I'm super excited to see what everyone can do with this. And other than that, I think that's pretty much everything for this video today. But apart from that, if you did enjoy today's video guys, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.